Welcome in, everybody. We have 82 regular season games in the bag, 4 playoff wins apiece, and 12 playoff wins apiece, and 4 wins separating the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Indiana Pacers from calling themselves NBA champions and cementing themselves in history. Thank you all so much for joining us. This is DJ with the High Low Sports Podcast. Glad to have a panel of basketball experts here to join us as we preview the NBA Finals. We're going to go and start with our good friend from the Third and 10 podcast, as well as the corner booth, a very dedicated Lakers fan. We have our friend Nate joining us as our first panelist. Nate, thank you for coming on.
What's up, DJ? Good to see you, my friend. Thank you for having me on. Should be my Lakers in here? No, I'm just kidding. Just being a little petty.
Let's not get hasty now. Let's reel it in there a little bit.
If we had a center, I'm kidding. No, it's fine. This is going to be a fun, series between these two teams. So excited to talk about it for sure.
Absolutely. And of course, we have 33.3% of the Sideline Summit podcast join us as well. Our good friend Chris is popping in here to give us a lowdown as well. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank y'all for having me. I'm excited to represent Sideline Summit and give my best takes. If anybody watches, I give my best. Sometimes they work out, sometimes they don't, but it is my best. So that's what I'm trying to do.
Hey, that's all we can ask for, right? And oftentimes the best is better than the rest. But we got ourselves the NBA Finals that all basketball fans are excited for, but all the media conglomerates not so much, as we got 2 quote-unquote small market teams, even though they're 2 of the top 50 biggest cities in the country. But I digress. It's going head-to-head, 2 of the best teams. We're going to go and start with how we got here. We're going to start with the Indiana Pacers. 50-32, 4th in the East. A really slow start to the year, but once January kicked off, they were, I think, the 2nd or 3rd best record in all of the NBA. A magnificent playoff run. They are 12-4 with 4-1, 4-1, and 4-2 victories heading into the finals. And then we have the Oklahoma City Thunder out of the West. 68-14 in the regular season. Pretty much the best team since October, whenever the season started, with the best record overall, first in the West. Also, similarly, 12-4 playoff record. They just happened to do that with a 7-game series. That is how dominant they have been. Both teams coming in high pace, a lot of young players throughout. We're going to go ahead and start by taking a look at the Indiana Pacers. And the first topic I want to look at with you guys is we're going to talk about the X factors. So we can't include Tyrese Haliburton here because we all know how darn good he is. Chris, I'm going to go ahead and start with you. Who is the X factors for the Pacers if they want to hoist their first NBA championship in franchise history?
I would say it's Myles Turner. I think Myles Turner is probably the most important player in this series for both sides, honestly. And I think I say that because he has to be on the floor. And I think Obi Toppin played great the first couple series. I think Siakam did well. But I think Turner's ability to shoot the 3 ball, defend at the rim, I think that's 2 things they're going to need the most to be able to keep Chet or Hardenstein out of the paint, and to also kind of deter some Shai and J-Dub drives. So I say Myles Turner is my X factor pretty much by far.
Absolutely as well. And on top of that, he has a very Brook Lopez arc in the NBA so far. Came in as a traditional center, kind of back to the basket, getting it done down low, and as the game transitioned, the longest reigning pacer, he's now turned into a 40% three-point shooter at 7 feet tall. So you put a small guy on him, he fights them into the paint and throws them out of the club. You put a big guy on him, he's popping 3. So I definitely agree with that one. Nate, what are you looking at for your X factor for the Indiana Pacers?
Yes, sir. For me, it's Aaron Nesmith, man. I mean, we saw what happened in the East Finals where he had a great shooting performance in Game 1. And also in that series, he did a great job defending Shai before he had that ankle injury. But he was, locking things down. Well, not locking things down per se, but limiting Shai as best he can. So during the postseason, he has shot 50% so far. And honestly, he was shutting down Brunson in the East Final. What did I say? He's going to be shutting down Shai or Williams, depending on how matchups go. But I'm looking forward to see what he can do against his Thunder team, whether it's his shooting or his defense in this series for sure.
Not to mention, he might have had the best half of a quarter of NBA playoff basketball we have ever seen in our lives. Not even the full quarter. He only needed about 200 seconds. Absolutely incredible. We're going to circle right back to, we're talking about the Pacers. The proof is in the name. With the way they play basketball, they watched Coach Carter. They saw those first few games where what did we do in practice? We ran, and that's exactly what they do. Nate, we're jumping right back to you. What are some of these strengths that the Pacers have to offer in addition to their pace?
Yeah, I mean, in last series, we saw what they can do on defense. I mean, causing just turnovers. The Knicks were just so turnover. Or I guess they were just susceptible to turnovers. Like they would just turn the ball over and over, and the Pacers were capitalizing. You mentioned fast break points, or just capitalizing on those turnovers. Like they were doing a heck of a job. That's one of their strengths as well. And it's just ball movement. I mean, sure, we always talk about, having that number one option, but for the Pacers, it's like any guy can step up and be that number one option, whether it's Tyrese or it's Siakam or it's Neesmith or a Myles Turner can be like the star for a game, depending on how things go. So it's not the deepest team in the world, but like their strength is that any guy can just step up at any moment. And that's what I like about Indiana for sure.
Absolutely. There's the phrase called putting them in the blender when the ball's swinging around, and the Pacers perpetually are in the blender. It never turns off. They never put it on low or anything. That's a perpetual full speed blender every time they're playing. Chris, I'm going to pose the same question to you. What are some of the strengths that Indiana possesses that might propel them to victory?
I think one of the strengths, just the ability to be able to play multiple ways. We saw them, to your point, play with a lot of pace, but also I've seen them play a slower game, and I've seen them do very well in that. So I think the ability to be able to kind of match their opponent in a sense, which the way they play, which I think in this series is going to be really interesting because I feel like the Thunder are kind of like the Pacers on steroids to an extent. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how to do that. But I think that's one of their biggest strengths, being able to either play fast or play more traditional pick and roll basketball, one of the best passes in the NBA. So that's kind of what I look towards as far as one of their biggest strengths.
Absolutely. And tagging on to that, that's a big notch in the cap to Rick Carlisle as the head coach, he won a championship literally to almost a decade and a half ago. And he's still finding a way to get it done, changing with the game. Very, very, very diverse skill set he's developed over the years. We talked about the strengths, so we're going to jump right back to you on this one too, Chris. What are some of the weaknesses, some areas that they need where they got to put a Band-Aid on because you can't really fix it, but you can kind of hide it so that the Thunder can't swarm it?
It's kind of funny. It's almost opposite of what Nate said. I think is not having like a go-to scorer. Like they have so many guys who can do. I think in the playoffs, sometimes they can work to your detriment, only in the sense of, for example, we know the ball's going to shade the last 3 or 4 minutes. And I think that prepares him, obviously going into the game, you kind of know that, but as the fourth quarter kind of dwindles down, you kind of get into that mode of knowing like, all right, it's kind of on me at this point. And I think that can kind of be a little scary for the Pacers in the sense of, if Haliburton's not getting everyone shots, getting everybody moving around, it can be scary sometimes for them to be able to make or create their own basket. So I would say maybe that would be one of the weaknesses that they would try to, I guess, kind of stay away from with playing against the Thunder in this series.
Absolutely. And the Thunder do know how to strike like lightning. Anytime that they find a weakness, they don't just kind of peck it, they run full speed through it. So Nate, what are some of the weaknesses you notice with the Pacers that kind of stand out they need to worry?
Yeah, I think with Indiana, it's like, I think for me, like I love Tyrese Haliburton. I do. It's just the inconsistency at times. Like he can be, a guy that puts up 30, but there's times where like his scoring is just like so and that's what scares me. That is one of the weaknesses of him and how that that does affect the team, because it's like if you're not getting the production from him, is Siakam going to be able to step up and fill that role? There's times where he hasn't yet, at times. I mean, of course, we've seen this postseason where he's done an outstanding job, but it's just consistency. And then the supporting cast is like, can they pick up the slack if one of those, either a Siakam or a Haliburton have a bad game? I don't know. It's still uncertain, and we'll get to the Thunder obviously in a bit, right? But I just don't feel too overly, I guess, comfortable with, I guess, depending on the other guys, if Siakam or Haliburton have not a good game or so, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Tyrese, for all the dynamite he gives you, he has about as many games with less than 10 points as he does with 30. Like,
and that's so frustrating too.
You're
it's just like
getting one or the other. You can't just get a comfortable 19 and 10, which is weirdly enough his averages. It has to be somewhere on the dramatic ends of both spectrum. But Nate definitely peeked into the future a little bit, because that was a good lead into our next topic of, we know about Haliburton, we know about Siakam, the most finals experience between the two teams. I know Caruso has some too, but Siakam actually started, major contributor, 30-plus points in his first ever career finals game against the Warriors in game 1 that series. And Siakam was Eastern Conference MVP. That's still very weird to say, but I digress. Pascal Siakam, can he keep it up? Same with Haliburton. We're going to go 2 for 1. Chris, I'll go and start with you. Can Haliburton continue to terrorize fan bases? And can Siakam kind of do what he's been doing? Can he keep this up and keep it rolling?
I'm going to say no, only because I think Dort, Caruso, Case, and Wallace, it's just a lot for Haliburton. And I think against the Knicks, he kind of was able to find ways to catch a break even while he's on the court. If he can get a switch off and get Brunson on him, or get Towns in the pick and roll, like he kind of has sometimes he can rest. With the Thunder is none of that. Like even with their worse defenders, they're still plus defenders. So it's like that's the only thing that really scares me in that sense. I don't think Haliburton will be able to be as incredible as he's been. I think he's going to be effective, but not as incredible. And I think Siakam the same way, because if Dort is guarding Siakam, he's going to use all 6 fouls. Whether they call all 6 fouls, that's up for debate. But he's going to use all of them. It's going to make Siakam really work. So I think those are 2 things that really worried me the most for that.
We saw a lot of it too. They like to switch Siakam if they can get him on one of the guards, Josh Hart, something like that. He would just pick on them. Now, if you do that, you're going with Alex Caruso, who just spent 7 games fighting Nikola Jokic in a phone booth. He is not scared of Siakam or anything they could throw at him at this point. Yep. Nate, when we look at it too, what are your thoughts? You did kind of mention Siakam a minute ago. Him, Haliburton, can they keep up this outstanding run they've been on, or does it almost feel like we got to regress back a little bit to the mean now? This high ride's got to slow down just a bit.
I think they do regress a little bit. I was looking at some stats, and when it comes to Tyrese versus the Thunder, his points per game is actually probably the lowest against any opponent. Actually, in the past couple seasons, Tyrese has averaged only 12 points per game over the past 2 seasons versus the Thunder, and that's because they have so many great defenders, like Chris mentioned, right? You have a Caruso, you have a Cason Wallace, and all those other guys too. It's just I do think, just based off the stats, Tyrese may not be as effective scoring wise. So it's like all the pressure from an offense perspective is going to be on Siakam to get bucket. And it's just like I mentioned, yeah, we saw what Siakam do last year against the Knicks. Can he repeat against the Thunder team? I don't know. I think they will regress a little bit. So that's what I think there for sure.
Absolutely. And I think what's going to be very interesting, we mentioned all those defenders. The Thunder don't really have a cone. They don't have anyone you could pick on. Maybe Isaiah Hartenstein, but even he for a center, he kind of at least moves his feet a little bit. There's not someone you could really pick on. So I wonder if that's going to affect Tyrese Haliburton's ability to get people involved, or if he has to kind of just go into full Winter Soldier mode and take the ball to the hole, start shooting the threes himself. He might have to shoot 20 shots compared to his normal 15 with 15 assists. But we've definitely focused a lot on the Pacers. We can't ignore the Oklahoma City Thunder, and anyone who's tried to ignore them this year, it has not gone well. As we mentioned, they already have 80 combined wins between the playoffs and the regular season. That's some of the most all time. We're going to go ahead and start in the same vein. We're going to look at the X factors for them, not including SGA. We already know MVP. That's a cheat code using SGA, top 5 player. Chris, I'll go ahead and lead this one off with you. Who's the X factor for the Thunder if they want to get this done?
So crazy. I've been back and forth in this. I think I might have gave a different answer on Sideline Summit. I've been so back and forth. But I'm going to choose Chet again. I think I actually chose Chet the first time. But yeah, I'll say Chet. And the reason I say that, I know you just mentioned Hartenstein. Hartenstein may be the cone, and that's why he may be off the court. He was starting and playing 15, 16 minutes, So I think Chet has to be great in this series. He has to rebound the ball at a high level, because Chet has those games where he'll get 5 boards, he'll get 11. He has to be at 8 to 10 every game of the series, because he has to play 35 plus minutes and be effective in all those minutes on both sides of the court. Because Chet is what can, again, similar to Turner, be the worst man for the Pacers, with being able to shoot the ball, being able to take 2 to 3 dribbles from the 3-point line or catch on the swing and attack the basket as a 7-footer. That's dangerous for any defense to deal with, especially when you have really only Myles Turner as your rim protector. If you can get him into foul trouble or get him out in perimeter, it's free for Shai and Dub. So I think I would say Chet is the biggest X factor in this game for the Thunder.
Absolutely. And with the way teams like to switch, there's a lot of those late closeouts. Problem is when Chet's the late closeout, it's worse than a normal closeout of this pterodactyl wingspan. He's going to affect those Naismith threes that look open, then suddenly that door's closed before you can blink. Nate, in the same vein for you, who's your X factor if the Thunder want to strike gold and get their NBA championship?
Sure. To me, it's Lou Dort, man. And by the way, congrats to him for making the first team all-defensive NBA team. Also was 4th in Defensive Player of the Year this year as well, voting-wise. He's going to be the first guy likely to take on Haliburton defensively. And actually, over the past couple seasons, I mentioned, Haliburton struggles against OKC. Dort has limited Haliburton to just 8 points in 122 matchups against Dort. So that just shows how impactful Dort is defensively. And we've seen multiple times throughout the season how much of a contribution he has on defense. The only thing that worries me a little bit about Dort is if he's going to be on the court as much as needed, he will need to be more of an offensive threat. And so far this season hasn't shot well from beyond the arc. He's shooting just 30% from 3-point range in the playoffs after shooting 41% in the regular season. So if he can stay on the floor and be impactful offensively and do his thing defensively, I think that's going to be quite the key in these playoffs for sure.
If you can get him to be basically, if you could be Bruce Bowen for this series, I think that's going to make things incredibly, incredibly difficult. Just 3 deep, maybe make a layup on occasion if they close out astronomically, or you somehow are walking for a layup. But I think that's where he's going to make his biggest difference. And like you said, he could play 40 minutes if he could do that for you. The way he plays defense, you don't need him to do a whole lot offensively. He just can't be useless. But
3 and D, hit the threes.
The next topic is going to be a hard one because, well, they haven't shown a lot of them all season. What kind of weaknesses do the Thunder pose? Like we mentioned, they already got 80 victories on the season. I think that's in the top 7 most of all time, and we haven't even played a finals game yet. Nate, what are we looking at for weaknesses that the Thunder pose?
Oh, this is tough because it's like they're the best team in the West this year. And it's just like it's hard to fight. But it's not a major weakness, but it is something that does worry me for these finals. It's like when Shai is off the floor, can the other guys step up and pick up the slack? And we've seen it. They've done so before. Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren, all those guys. But, if they slip up, that's going to allow Indiana to kind of, come back in if they're down, for example, for Indiana to come back and wreak some havoc. So, and that's going to lead to overplaying Shai. And it's like, I get it. This is the last series that I overplay for this year, but it's like, it worries me a little bit, just a little bit, when Shai is off the floor, how the OKC bench and the supporting cast responds. But that's just like that's like a minor concern because it's so hard to find a weakness. I literally spent so much time trying to find one and research one. It was hard to find for sure.
Absolutely. And SGA is such a prominent part of that offense that even before a single tip-off has happened yet, he is a minus 550 MVP favorite right now. For context, like in Super Bowls with Patrick Mahomes, he's never been more than like a plus 100 favorite. And that's with 3 Super Bowls in your back pocket. Now you have SGA already minus 550. Like that's a terrible bet at that point, even though it's all but a lock. Chris, what are we looking at for the Thunder if we can find a weakness and what's one that stands out for you?
DJ, before I answer, I do want to say, I think we share brain cells. I was saying the other day, if the Thunder can have their role players play like older Spurs role players, I say Steven Jackson, Bruce Bowen, and guys like that, I just want to know we do share brain cells. But I will say
the one functioning one on my end, so I'm glad it works role play.
I think I have 3, so I share one with you. But I will say, I think the biggest weakness will probably be coaching. And I don't think Daigneault's a bad coach. I don't want to sound like he's a bad coach, but I know Carlisle's elite. And Carlisle's been in this situation before. So if there's any weaknesses, I don't see it on the court for the team, but I do see it as just adjustments on the fly. If they blitz Shai, or again, to Nate's point, when Shai's off the court, how Carlisle goes and adjusts, I think that can be the only weakness I would say, just because Daigneault hasn't been there before. But he's also been in high-pressure games, so I would say that. But if I had to pick a weakness, it wouldn't be with the players. It would be just with the fact of inexperience as far as on the coaching side.
Absolutely. Like if there's one thing to be a good coach, it's another thing to be dealing with a great coach, an elite coach who has a different pedigree. So even if he does a good job, the other guy might just checkmate you on top of it. You can see like Bill you see Popovich, Jackson, all the times. They be going against great coaches that make no mistakes. They just make that one extra little checkmate that no one sees coming. But next thing I'm kind of curious about, I want to touch on since we're on the Thunder. SGA for literally one game against the Timberwolves is completely branded as a free throw merchant, basically. I know he gets a handful of them. When you drive the paint, it's bound to happen. We're not going to focus too much on that because this is a pro SGA account. What I will say is what's interesting is if they do, how does that affect the refereeing? If they call it tightly because, he gets touched all the time, they go to the foul line, et cetera. If they call it like that, who do you think that favors more? Because I'd make the case that would favor the Pacers because the Thunder like to get handsy themselves. So the question is, which way is the better way for the officiating to go? Chris, I'll lead this one off with you.
And I do want to say, as a big Shai fan, I didn't want to wear my jersey because I didn't want to, give any inklings of who I was going for. But just as a former basketball player, the rules are what the rules are, and that's if you can't touch or you can't extend, you can't do that. And if the refs aren't going to be able to see everything, me exaggerating what they're doing to show you what they're doing, I don't think that's flopping the free throw merch. But that's just me. I have to give my little spill on that. But I will say, I think it would favor. I think it still favors the Thunder more just because they do like to get handsy. So if they are getting handsy and it's being called that way, the only two people who really drive every single play is Dub and Shai. For the Pacers, yeah, they get a lot of spot up threes, but a lot of that is off driving kicks. If they're getting pushed on those drives or they're little trips they're not calling, or if they're letting Caruso do that bump and run, same thing with Lou Dort, kind of like linebackers, then the Pacers are going to be in trouble. It's not because they're soft or anything like that. Haliburton isn't built body-wise to deal with that for 48 minutes over a 7-game series, depending on how far it goes. So I think if anything, just off stature alone, it wears down your engine. And if Haliburton's worn down or not on the court, the Pacers are kind of not in void against this Thunder team. Not against other team, but against this Thunder team. I think they will be in very big trouble.
Absolutely. The fatigue meter just wears down when people are leaning on you the whole game, just bumping into you, roughing into you, elbows, etc. There's no Karl-Anthony Towns out there, so there's not going to be 3 fouls in 2 seconds, not too many hands in the cookie jar. So I think there's a little bit of leeway there. Nate, what are we thinking when we look at this game? How do you think the officiating could play a role into this game?
Oh, yeah, I think it benefits the Thunder. I mean, we've seen it when Shai gets the free throw line a lot. Thunder usually win. And that's just, Shai being aggressive, man. I mean, he's getting into the paint. He's not afraid to get into the paint and draw contact, right? Depending on how you see it. I know some people are not too happy about that. Jared from the corner booth, but I digress. No, I think it benefits the Thunder for sure. And with Shai, and this is, simply put, when you get to the free throw line, you get a chance to breathe for a second, kind of get your energy back up. Simply put, I think this benefits the Thunder for sure, especially with Shai, because if they're going to win, it's going to be because of him. So, yeah,
absolutely. And I'll pose one to both of you simultaneously. This one's just a quick one first before we get into the fun part of the show. J-Dub, outstanding player, climbing up a lot of boards. Many consider him. They call him Robin. Is he Robin or is he better? And do you think this is a series we could take that next step back? No, he's Batman Part 2. Or how do we want to consider J-Dub in this one? Where do we think he's at right now? Nate, I'll go and let you lead the way.
It's just, I want him to be Robin, and he kind of is at this point. But we've seen the good and the bad. We saw the good last series against the Timberwolves, where he shot great. Then we saw the series against Denver, where he shot 23% from games 3 through 5. And I'm just I don't. I hope he's the Robin for the Thunder's sake. I just don't feel too confident in him to be consistent in this series. So I just.
All right, so Nate has it as SJ and the boys. They're coming in waves too. There's not a hierarchy. It's a tidal wave. But Chris, how are we feeling about J-Dub going into this series and moving forward?
I put your walking shoes on and take a walk with me, right? He's neither Batman nor Robin. I'll tell you who he is. He's Alfred. And the reason he's Alfred is because when Shai's off the court, to your point, Nate, it's Dub's time at that point. And most of his time isn't just scoring. It's setting the table for everybody else. It's setting the table for the little henchmen that we don't see that help Batman in the background. We don't even see those. But that's where Dub comes in. And you know what Alfred always is? He's always there when Batman calls. He may not have the solution, but he'll help him find it. And I think that's what Dub's been doing. Even when Dub was shooting bad in those playoff games before, great defense, rebounds and assists were everywhere. He was literally doing everything else outside of scoring. And I think that's why I call him Alfred, because he's the most dependable. Even though he's not sidekick every day, he's not always with Shai, I would say, in that sense. But whenever Shai calls or when he needs him, he's always there. So I would call him Alfred in this series. Now, and I think I love a good Batman. I'm really into comics and all that. But I think Alfred may be a little cooler than Robin. That's just me. Not Nightwing, but just me. That's just me.
I gotta say, you spoke my co-host and our producer's language, music to his ears on that. Is a big comic as well. He loved the Alfred 1 to a T. And you know what? Robin just needs to wear some normal pants before we start giving him a little bit more. He can't be running around in his underwear like this.
Yep, just gotta wear some pants.
Just at least shorts. Give me some jorts or something. Meet me in the middle right now. You can't be running around.
Anything.
Absolutely anything. But we're heading into the tip-off is right around the corner. We're going to hit the favorite part of this, which is what a lot of people tune in for. We're going to do some predictions and some bets for the game as well as the series. Nate, lead us off. Who's going to win tonight's game and give us your best prop bet for the game?
Ooh, okay. I'm going Indiana. I think they upset the Thunder in game 1. And my prop bet for today is going to be Tyrese Haliburton. I'm not sure if the line changed at all from yesterday when I first wrote it down, but it's going to be Tyrese Haliburton over 3.5 assists in the first quarter. I think he gets his boys, involved early, like he does most of the time to start the game. So give me the Pacers and Tyrese to get things kicked off early with over 3.5 assists in the opening quarter.
All right, they're coming out sealing and dealing, swinging and banging. They're coming out firing away. All right, I like it. 4 assists in the first quarter. I like it. Chris, how are we feeling for this game with our winner and our prop bet?
Absolutely no bias, obviously, from talking about the Thunder earlier, but I do have the Thunder. I have the Thunder by double digits because I think that they know they have to jump on the Pacers from what they've seen. They've seen what the Pacers do if you give them an inch of space. If you give Nesmith 2 minutes, we've seen what the Pacers can do, and I think the Thunder have learned the lesson that others should have learned. And I think they're going to jump out on them this first game and not necessarily send a message, but you have to come out firing. So I think they will. Prop bet I have is the lock of this whole year. If you've been betting anything, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander over 29.5 points. That 30 streak was going crazy. It was almost like the Rockets winning streak from years ago. Sorry, I showed my age. But that's my prop bet for the day and my prediction.
So I don't need to be showing my age. My face shows plenty of it as well. For me, we have a similar thought. We're going to take the Thunder as well. I'm actually going to go with Pascal Siakam over 19.5 points. I think he'll still find a way to get 20 just in those weird second units. Just always finds a way, and he tends to be their half-court offense since they like to run. And when it's half-court, it's like, please, Siakam, save us the weird mismatch. But we got tonight's game. We're going to this series now, Chris. We know it's going to be the Thunder based on everything else the 2 and 2 I put together. The question is how many games and who's MVP?
I can't believe you guessed that, honestly. I am shocked. But yes, I have the Thunder winning in 5, and I have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander winning his first Finals MVP and capping off a top 3 guard season in history of the NBA.
Well, once again, we're sharing the same brain cell because I got Thunder in 5, SGA as well, elite guard season, just elite overall season 2, where you get MVP, Finals MVP, most wins, all of the accolades in one go. Nate, are you following suit or are you going to break the trend on us?
I ain't gonna lie, man. I feel like a hater of OKC. Like I feel bad. Like this is the first time meeting Chris, and it's just like I don't want him to think I'm like a Thunder hater. I really am not. But look, the Pacers all playoff song. They've taken down all the favorites. They took down Milwaukee. They took down the Cavs. They took out the Knicks. If there's one team that's gonna do it, to take down another giant, it's gonna be them. Pacers in 6. And Tyrese Haliburton actually gets the MVP. I know in the East Finals, he thought he was going to get it. Then he realized it was Siakam, and he had to take a step back during that ceremony. But give me Tyrese to win the Finals MVP and the Pacers to win the whole thing.
All right, so Nate has the Winter Soldier recapturing an award, taking the MVP, as well as the Pacers getting their first championship in history. I will add to, right before we get out of here, the Thunder are a minus 700 favorite to win the whole thing. Teams that are minus 300 or higher are 16-1 historically. The one anomaly was those 2004 Pistons that beat that Lakers team with Karl Malone and all those guys. So that includes those dynastic Warriors teams, everything in between, those ridiculous Popovich Spurs teams. Every time they were a big favorite like that, they found a way. So the Pacers, they're up against it, but it should be an absolutely fun series. Once again, I'm DJ. My co-host Kelsey is our producer from the High Low Sports. We got Chris from Sideline Summit and Nate from 3rd and 10 podcast, as well as the Corner Booth. Thank you two so much for joining me. It was awesome to talk about basketball, get ready for this game as well. I'm going to give you guys both a quick minute to shout out your podcast as well as they can find you. Chris, we'll go ahead and go first.
Just first of all, thank you, DJ, for having me. I love talking hoops with anybody, but especially minds who know basketball. So this has been really awesome. As I'm Chris from Sideline Summit on Twitter, X, sorry, Instagram, TikTok, and everywhere else.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And Nate, go and let everybody know the multiple places that they can find you because you're a busy guy.
Yes, sir. You can find me and my co-host Brian Germanaro on the 3rd and 10 podcast every Tuesdays and Thursdays. You can also find me as well on the Corner Booth podcast as well. All those podcasts can be found on YouTube, X, Instagram, TikTok, all the fun stuff. Whether it's for clips or full episodes as well. So thank you for having me, DJ, and good to see you, Chris, and thank you to Kelsey as well for being in the background for sure.
Absolutely glad to have you both join me. And in solidarity with his co-host, Jared from the Corner Booth also has the Pacers. So the Corner Booth is going with the Pacers.
He's a hater, man. I'm telling you, he's salty. He's salty, man.
However, you do have your other co-host from your other show with Thunder and 5. So you know what? Hey, you're being torn in both directions from your two shows. But absolutely. Go and let us now know down in the comments below who you all think is winning, how many games, and who's going to take home the MVP, as well as some of your favorite prop bets, because you know what, I might steal a few of those later. But thank you all so much for joining us. This has been absolutely wonderful. Enjoy the NBA Finals, and we'll see you all again next time.